Hello and welcome to Tarikia. Yeah, it's still the banks of the Gaelic, but who wants to get stuck in a rut? This is Dresden's Tale, episode 41, chapter 39 of volume 2. This is the show where we follow Dresden Fane. No cape, no mask, but he's our hero. Just a dwarf with no luck and a whole lot of bad attitude. Our story exists in the violence of the Kelled culture, which mostly is character arcs, love stories, but occasionally produces a scuffle and some very wounded feelings. I'm your guide, Lewis Nichols. I'm sure there's a story around here somewhere, but while we wait for our dwarf to show up, I'm going to tell you about the music of Kelled lands. Now, you're not going to get much in the way of harmony. There are no orchestras, swing bands, or barbershop quartets. What you do have is a bunch of grunts, chants, drums, horn calls, and hollers. There are two schools of music for the Kelds. The first is the chant, nearly always religious in nature. The leader of the chant calls out prompts for others to answer. Sometimes it's in three parts, with one call, a select response, and then a second response for anyone who might be listening. The second style is the Gaelic Verse. This is much closer to what we would think of as a song. It has verses, often tells a story, and sometimes contains a chorus. They might even be sung to a drum beat if performed by a professional. Usually, they are more akin to a campfire or trail song. As such, they are often boastful or completely rude. There is overlap between the two. Sometimes the verse is structured as a call and answer. There is variety. In all cases, many versions of the calls, answers, and verses exist. Even the chants of the High Holy Days have a slight difference from region to region. String instruments are virtually unheard of among the Kelds. The Hessians used them, but it was part of the culture targeted for elimination. Only on the periphery of the empire and in the memory of Hessian converts do they continue to exist. Finally, neither the verse nor chants are so much sung as they are shouted. A melodious voice is an even greater rarity than a stringed instrument. Again, there is a tiny seed. The conquered peoples of northern Julbeck sang, but the unnatural voice was deemed a heresy and also targeted for extinction. As the years pass, those and other traditions may reemerge. After all, almost 30% of Kelds in 2052 were born Hessian or had at least one Hessian parent. For the Bindo and Draws of Julbeck, it's more like 15%, but that's a future we haven't gotten to yet. For now, learn your callbacks and shout them like you have a pair. Hey, it's our dwarf! And it looks like his party must have known what we were talking about. We're on Tarikia, the banks of the Gaelic River, and it's the 12th day of Ebba, 2052 years after the fall. What's for dinner? A Minotaur bellowed. Sophia yelled back at him. Don't know. Snake ate the cook. Orn complained. How about a tune? The Minotaur called back. Croc ate the bard. Sophia yelled, this time smiling. When do we sleep? Orn patted Dresden on the back. When we get to hell, this dwarf knows the way. You're all about as funny as a bunch of monkeys throwing around their own poop, the warlock told them. Sophia shook her head. Relax. It's a proper warrior's trail. Reptiles trying to eat us, and that swamp bear was completely unreasonable, her boyfriend agreed. And I still say that foot-long spider just wanted a cuddle. They had, in fact, lost a man who proved to be an excellent cook. It was the bear that ended him. The croc had taken a sheep that someone tried to make a pet of, or at least until dinner. As far as Dresden knew, there had been no snake yet. The spider had been entirely too real and was their first run-in of the day with local nature. Dresden found it sharing his blankets and promptly smashed it with a warhammer. Orn was a Marwat, brownish orange, with a big white spot on his chest. He was doing his best to make friends with Dresden, but the dwarf didn't know why. I heard there's a magic spell that lets you travel hundreds of miles, just like that. Orn snapped his fingers. Dresden sighed. Darling, it's called pocket space, and it's not a big deal. Makes me queasy. Orrin stopped on the trail. I didn't know. He turned back to Dresden. We really haven't been together that long. Ugh, perfect love. Isn't that sweet? The warlock grumbled. How many spouses are you planning on having, Sophia? You're a fine leader. You deserve a big family. So speak up. 2? 4? What do you think, Warren? How many men do you want to share your wife with? I don't answer him, my love. He's baiting you. I only have eyes for you. Dresden withdrew. If he couldn't make everyone else miserable, he'd just dwell in his own thoughts. He knew Leith would have been just as satisfied as Sophia was. That's one of the things that had drawn him to her. That, and an amazing figure, and those lips. He missed her beauty, her touch so badly it physically hurt him. Last night, he dreamed of them. They were living on Cadiz and working jobs for the school. They'd adopted 4 children, each one a different species. The dream had left him angry all day. It wasn't her memory, it was what he added to it. Why did she have to lift him when they kissed? It hadn't even bothered him at the time. All of her cute names demeaned him. It wasn't intentional. It couldn't have been. Little warrior, little dwarf, she thought everything about him was little. She always had to be in control. She would have been the dominant in the house, and she would have taken at least one run-in husband, probably 2. I'm not mad, my little badass. Sophia gave Orrin a kiss. I hope you're miserable, Dresden told him. You know, I'm about done with you being pissy, Sophia told him. You keep saying that, he provoked her. Instead of taking the bait, she pointed back down the line of travelers. See if you can find anybody capable of pocket space. We'll ask forward in the line. You're wasting your time, he told them. Orrin shrugged. I know, if anybody could do it, they'd already be gone. We thought about that, but it's worth a try. No, you idiot. I'm a warlock. Sophia perked up. You can do it? Others had stopped in the road and were gathering around. I'm capable of the glyph, but it's not that easy. What would you need? The Minotaur asked. We'll help you. They're of the dead. Dresden put his hand to his head. No. I've never been there, so it's blind, right? Pocket spacing near gates is dangerous anyway. You ever heard of Helix? Orrin shook his head. No. Sophia backhanded him in the chest. Of course! Stone Clan hero who traveled with the elites. They discovered the gate in the Blue Snake Islands. Oh. And that's where he was lost. He made himself ethereal and was never seen or heard from again. A pocket space takes you into the astral, but it's basically the same thing. There are other problems too. If I aim for a place with more than a few feet of water, it won't resolve. If I aim for a place right in town, the Campbells might just lock us up for it. There are rules, you know. And it's mountainous. If I put us on a slope or in a mud flat, Tarikia is just one giant swamp with Camberg up in the mountains that overlook it. This is not the place to be fucking around. Fine, calm down, she told him. Most of the warriors had begun moving again. It's still cool that you can do it. I bet they'll make you into a courier on Vool, which is why we are not telling anyone else. I'd appreciate it if you kept your mouth shut. She moved on. Whatever. Orrin swatted at the mosquito that had been sucking the blood out of the back of his hand. I'm glad we're on the same side. Why is that, Orrin? The Tagara shrugged. Wizards scare me. You might cast a spell that makes me into a frog or a snake. I can't do that. Only pocket space. If I ever get back to Parncilia, I might learn the Voltaire glyph. That would be more interesting, but it still wouldn't turn you into a frog. I don't understand anything you just said, Orrin admitted. Dresden grunted. You know, I'm good with a club. I might just beat you to death. Does that scare you at all? Well, that was exactly the kind of rude we've come to expect. Kind of sudden, too. Didn't that seem like a short episode? It did to me. Maybe I'm just talking too fast. I blame the shorts. Guess we're going to have to slow things down. No, not really. Not going to do that. So don't forget, there's more content on the channel than just the story. The more you comment, the more I know what you're here for. With any luck, I've gotten the Fantasy Warfare series up. Then again, the way I procrastinate, you never know. Let's see, what time is it where you are? If I stick to the schedule and math, calendars, 15 episodes, yeah, well, it's spring, apparently. Hopefully, I've gotten the series up and a whole lot more. No reason to draw it out. This is another episode in the books. So do the stuff. I'm glad you chose to spend a little time with me today. I appreciate that very much. My name is Lewis Nichols, and I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful day.